Preparing to live stream the meeting. Take another deep breath. No, it's good. All right, we are live. As far as I know, we're live. We'll see.
Okay. Hi.
So, hello everybody, and welcome. We're just going to act like everything's happening, because if it's not, I am at least recording it on this screen and we can upload it later. Okay. Hopefully we're live. I'll check over here every once in a while, see if anybody's commenting or if anybody's actually out there. If you are, send us some thumbs up or some hearts or something to let us know that we're coming through. But we're just gonna proceed. So we had a few little technical glitches at the beginning, so that's why we're a couple minutes late, but hey, nothing that we couldn't overcome. So hello, Miss Judy, good to see you.
Hello, Kenzie.
How's your day been?
It's been the last couple of days been a challenge.
Oh, yeah. Sorry about
but
that.
It's okay. We're okay.
Okay. I was at a we're chit-chatting live for just a second. Yeah, I was at a prayer encounter this weekend over in Vestavia, at the old Vestavia Alliance Church. Jonathan Mitchell, my nephew, was running that, from the Lane son. So
wait. You mean the international?
Yeah.
Across the street from Alliance?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I wish you had told me about that. I would have come to that.
Well, I should have. Sorry about that.
That's fine.
But it was good. It was good.
And you said John was doing it?
Yep. Okay, so anyway, I'm excited about hearing your rendition of The Wall. I did not get the book on purpose, did not read it on purpose, because I just wanted to get it all fresh, like others might be getting it.
I think that's just wonderful. Marvelous. That's marvelous.
You look very pretty, like your little fluffy shirt.
It's a sweater.
Sweater.
It's a sweater I wore to church.
Yeah.
Church. That's what Medea says, church. Do you know Medea?
I do know Medea. I don't know if I want to admit it or not. Okay, so how do you want to begin? You just want to start reading?
I was thinking maybe I'll read the section I'm going to read, and then we'll come back and comment about some of the things that are in there. I feel kind of stupid reading to adults, but it's just a powerful little book. So
right, don't feel silly. But I cannot love having Miss Judy read to us.
I cannot pull off holding the book up and reading it at the same time. So I'll just have to, maybe I'll show you the picture and then I'll read. How's that?
Okay, that sounds good.
This thing is called The Wall, a Parable, by Gloria J. Evans, in case somebody would want to get it. We've got the picture on the thing anyway. Okay. Ironically,
wait. Go ahead and show the front, show the cover of it, just in case, because not everybody has seen. Okay, great. Now,
I think ironically, and I don't know what else is involved in here, she dedicated it to her mother.
Interesting.
Don't you think that's interesting?
Yes.
To mother, not my mother, to mother.
Right.
There's some significance in there. I would love to know what it is, but I don't. All right, first little picture. Here she is.
Wait a minute, you need to hold that just a little bit longer. Give us a chance to take a look at it.
It's hard for me to see.
Right. Back off just a little bit, back away just a little bit, because we can't see the words. Okay, that's, I don't know. Oh, you're going to read. Okay.
Just see the little picture. She's just starting here.
Okay.
Building her little wall.
Oh, okay.
I suppose it was when it occurred to me that I could keep people out of my life by building a simple wall. The wall would be a kind of boundary, a kind of protection. That's what she thought. And the next picture just shows her little blocks that she's using. At first, the little wall was only knee high, and it was really quite attractive, made of native stone I had found in my life. So she's been collecting these stones for a while. The wall was so small that some people didn't notice it and fell flat on their faces.
Oh. Oh.
That would be me because she had her glasses on. Others saw it and would step over it and come very close to me, and I found it very uncomfortable. So I built the wall higher. And here's this dude. He thinks he's just gonna march in and walk all over everything. I've met those people. You met those people? Just march right in. This was,
those ones that have no
they don't understand body space. That's right. They just gonna march on in, baby. This was really much better. But soon I found that people, she must have built it higher. We skipped from him.
Don't skip.
Oh, she already said, so I built the wall higher. This was really much better, but soon I found that people would come and rest their arms on the wall while talking to me. They're getting casual. They're getting, some stayed too long, and some were not. This is interesting. And some were not my kind of people. Interesting. That's very interesting. And even when I edged the top of the wall with sharp stones, they didn't seem to notice. So here they are.
Oh,
there's a wad of them. One day, one of them vaulted over the wall and stood right inside. This made me angry. And I decided to build the wall higher. Here's this dude vaulting the wall. As I continued to build, I became more and more self-sufficient. I painted designs on the stones. I made arches and colored windows that distorted the light so that no one could either see in or out. Very interesting. So now she's decorating it. Can you see that?
Yes.
Making little, being real artistic. This dude right here I've met. One day a man stopped to listen as I explained how I was building the wall. He wanted to come inside to see what I was doing. And I explained to him that the whole purpose of the wall was to keep people out on the other side. Listen to this. But I could tell he didn't understand or care. As he left, I went back to build the wall higher. Here's Mr. Self-righteous here. Mr. I can straighten you out. You met those people? I can straighten you out in a minute. I became so absorbed in my wall that I found little time for anything else. I searched my life for new and different stones. And I found stones that I didn't even know I had. So, baby, she's going full blast here.
Like a castle.
She is building her own little castle. the design was so different to me. I would build and rebuild until it was just the way I wanted it. Little perfectionist here. I got that. I got a taste of being a perfectionist from my father, who was 150% perfectionist. Some stones were so dear to me that I polished them carefully several times a day. Here she is just polishing her little self to death. Later on, we're going to see what these stones stand for. Not good. Then one day, I realized the wall was so high that I no longer saw anyone go by. And I no longer heard anyone. Everything was quiet. Is anyone there? I yelled. That's it. That's all I'm reading today.
Oh, you left us on the cliff.
Of course.
Stopping it at a cliffhanger.
That's the purpose.
Is anyone there?
Is anyone there?
Oh, I can
see
understand.
the struggle. You see the struggle she's having? She wants to build this wall, and somebody comes in and she wants to build it higher and higher, but then inside of her, she wanted somebody there. We're built for community. We're built for fellowship. So, okay, you want to ask me some questions, or what do you?
Well, it's kind of interesting because we're only doing a portion of the story, and I guess we all can kind of figure out where it's going to take us, but we don't want to go to that. We want to kind of stay right here in this space of what you just read. She wanted to keep people out. Why do you think she wanted to keep people out?
Because I can only speak from experience. So I can tell you, I built one of these walls, and I did it because I had been hurt and I had lost loved ones to death. And I built a wall to protect myself, I thought. So I built this sucker. I've done exactly what she did.
Right.
I even looked up, you want me to pass on some information? I even looked up some of the dates. I had a bunch of my family, close family, die very close together. And that's what started me wanting to protect myself. I wanted to protect myself because after this, I'll read it. My dad died in February of 1963. He was the middle child of his family of three. There was my aunt, Mimi, Uncle Gene, and Daddy. So Daddy died in February of 1963. Uncle Gene died in November of 1963. My grandmother lost 2 children in 1 year. She told my mother it was almost too much for her to handle. Therefore, my granny Boyd died in May of 1964.
Wow.
She just said, you know what? This, I can't deal with this. And then my Aunt Mimi, who I loved with all my heart, died in August of 1967. So losing very close family members as such, it's so close together. And not long after that, my grandmother Harris on my mother's side had a major stroke, and my uncle, my mother's brother, thought we couldn't take care of Mama Harris, so he had her flown out to Corpus Christi. So I saw her one time after that. And then not long after that, Papa Harris died too. So my whole core family was gone. So I thought a wall was a heck of a good idea. Yeah. And I built long and hard, baby, because here was my thinking. I don't ever want to hurt anymore. So here's what I said. I'm going to let the people that are still close to me stay, but nobody else is going to come close to me to protect myself. And then in my young mind, I concluded anybody I got close to would die. So I wasn't going to get close to anybody again. So
Yeah.
that's why I built a wall.
Wow. So what you're really talking about is some pretty stacked trauma that came in.
Yeah, that's it. You're right. And in the 60s and 70s, people didn't go to counselors or therapy. I should have been taken to a counselor.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Here's what happened. I graduated. So Daddy died in February of 1963. Back then you had January graduations. So I graduated in January of 1964. Less than a year after he died. Had a scholarship because there was no other way I could have gone to college without a scholarship. Got an Optimist Club scholarship. Tried to start Stanford University in January of 1964. And I can remember sitting we had to move to a little teeny tiny apartment with little bitty rooms. And I was sitting at the table in the kitchen trying to write a research paper for one of my classes. And I just looked at my mother and said, I cannot do this. Because I really think I had a nervous breakdown during that time. But so, if people have these kinds of feelings, lose loved ones, I highly recommend a counselor. Mm-hmm. Get a counselor. Shit.
Right. But I mean, it's really good that you're sharing this because it shows the progression. It shows how trauma impacts our life. And what I see here, just from hearing this portion of your story, is you had a lot of trauma in a very small amount of time that you didn't know how to process.
I did not.
No one came along beside you to help you process that. But this 16-year-old girl that lost her dad, she's just a baby.
Yeah. And my dad, for me, he wasn't a perfect father, but he was a good provider. He was a good man. Didn't know how to show love. He showed love to me when I was little, but when I turned into a teenager, he didn't know what to do, and he just kind of backed off. But he was a good man, and he provided for me, and I felt safe with him. And when he was gone, I literally feel like the ground opened up and I fell through. It was horrible. Unexpected too, although almost every year he was in the hospital at least once a year from the time I was 8 until I was 16 because he had heart trouble. And back then, there was no open heart surgery and all that kind of stuff. So, but he had been in the hospital so many times. When he went in the hospital this time, he'll come back out, but he didn't. Yeah. And then I stood in the hallway in August of 1967. I stood in the hallway of probably West End Baptist Church and watched them take my aunt out of the room to the ER or something. And I watched her as she was literally dying as she was going down the hall. That was in 67. That was horrible.
What did you see? What did that look like?
With my aunt? Mm-hmm. Okay, she had been in the hospital. All my dad's side of family had heart troubles, bad heart trouble. So she had a heart attack. She'd been in the hospital. I'd been up there, I don't know how many times. She was going to be discharged that day. And I was, it was during the summer when I was working, when I was in college, and my mother and I worked at the same insurance company. And mother came upstairs, downstairs, and asked me to go to the hospital that my aunt had made a turn for the worse. And when I went there, she was struggling to breathe. You know, it was horrible. It was horrible.
Yeah, so that's what you witnessed.
Fear, anguish, you know, you name it. I felt it. You got to understand, her husband, can I give this little bit of information so you understand why she was so close to me? She moved to Miami, Florida, had 2 boys, 18 months apart. Then her husband of 35 died of pneumonia. So she moved back to Birmingham, where we were all settled, and moved in with my grandmother, with Granny. And then Granny and Papa Boyd moved to Mississippi for some reason. I think she had relatives down there, and took Billy and Jimmy with them because my aunt had to work. She had to work. So she would go the weekends to see her boys, and then she lived with us, and I loved her. I can remember grabbing her and squeezing her. She was like a second mother to me. I loved her. Oh, that was not fun.
Wow, this is the prequel to the wall being built.
Right.
But it makes a lot of sense, and I think it's important to point all this out because your young soul, I mean, you're still in your teens, and you're just so young, and you just don't know how to process this. But your dad, everything shifted, everything changed, and not just in your life, but it was also it's like the ground underneath you was just constantly shifting.
That's true. See, Daddy was only 53. Mother was 46 years old. Had never worked because she was a stay-home mother. Right. Now all that's thrown in her lap. Right. Daddy met Mother at, I'm pointing that way because it's that way, at the University of Montevallo. She went to, in the 40s, 30s, 40s, my mother went to college. I think that's just cool in and of itself. Right. And right then it was just a women's college. So her older brother took my dad down to meet girls at Montevallo because he could get on campus because his little sister was there, never having a clue that my father was gonna fall in love with my mother. And he was 7 years older than Mother, so needless to say, my grandmother Harris was not a happy person. She thought that was Mother was 19 and he was 26. He worked at a baking company, so he was a business guy. And my grandmother Harris was not, she was mad at Uncle Doug and my father. So
yeah, so a very disruptive world for this child, and she couldn't hang on. Every person she loved and hung on to was taken away, and she began to fear that was going to be her normal. And the one thing that you said that really stuck out to me was, anyone I get close to will die.
Absolutely. I really believe that.
Oh, I know.
I absolutely believe that.
But this is exactly, I didn't know all this would kind of come up because I haven't even read the book. And your story behind the book is what's making this so powerful. But in trauma, because I do trauma work, right, with people.
Right.
This is very typical of what happens when you go, you have to write a narrative and you have to start operating in your world as a result of how that trauma has hurt you. But what we'll often do is we'll make vows. Or we'll make agreements that we then live on with for most of our adult life, unless we get help somewhere along the way. And your agreement was anyone I get close to will die.
Absolutely. I believe that.
But we gotta carry it a little bit further. Therefore, fill in the blank.
Therefore back then, or therefore back
right now, back then, yeah. The 16-year-old girl or 17
but
year
yeah, therefore I'm vowed to myself that nobody else would get close to me, come in my circle. The ones who were already there, I wasn't going to turn my mother away. My brother was still alive. I wasn't going to turn, but ain't nobody else coming in, baby.
Right. And it makes perfect sense. I mean, it seems very logical at the time that's the only world you knew. That's the only world you know. And that's very, very common. And so you started building a wall because of fear.
Exactly.
And the whole point of it is not to feel pain, because the pain of losing you.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't want to.
No more pain.
No more pain.
That's a lot.
Hey, by the way, how'd that work for you?
No more pain after all that.
Right.
That's a lot of pain in a very short time.
Right. It's a whole lot of pain in a very short time.
And keep in mind, during all this time prior to then, my dad was in the hospital. And back then, when you had heart trouble,
right,
they went in the hospital for 2 months. So my life was, I lived with a friend, one of Mother's friends, Alva White. I would stay with them, and her daughter was one of my best friends then. And then Mrs. Winslet, you probably heard me speak of Mrs. Winslet. She was like a second mother. I lived at their houses.
Because your mom couldn't take care of you because your dad was in the hospital.
No, she had to be there with him.
So if that started.
And my brother was already married and moved to Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Baton Rouge, and then Houston. So my brother was out of the picture.
Okay, so what you decided, that young girl decided, is that, well, and rightfully so, nothing is secure.
Correct.
Nothing is secure. And the people that I love, I have, potentially could lose them. It's just, this world is not a safe place.
Boing! Boom!
This world is not a safe place. Therefore, because you have to take into your hands, you have to act in a way to protect yourself, because you don't know what else to do. I can't feel this kind of pain anymore. So I'm going to wall myself off from people, because it's not worth the risk. It's just not worth the risk.
Added pain? No, I don't want any more pain, I thought. Like you said.
That made your world very, very tiny.
Yes. Yes.
And you had to just live with constant fear, I would imagine. I mean, an 8-year-old and a father in and out of the hospital, that has to have a lot of implications, like just fear. I never know if he's coming home from the hospital. It happened so much, you got desensitized to it.
Yeah. See, right. We were in High Point, North Carolina. When we're originally from Birmingham, he got promoted. We moved to High Point, North Carolina, and then he had his first massive heart attack there. And then they just took his position away from him and said, we'll put you as an assistant manager, and gave him a few choices. And of course, he chose to come back to Birmingham, and I'm glad he did. But we had that. I lived in Birmingham till I was about 4. Then we moved to New Orleans. I lived there 2 years. Then we moved to High Point, North Carolina. So not only that, it's all this. Then we moved to High Point, North Carolina. I was there in the 1st and 2nd grade. By the way, I can tell you both the teachers' names there, Miss Hunt and Miss Coleman, because they were so good to me. And then we had to come back to Birmingham. I was to go to school when we came back to Birmingham. I was in the 3rd grade. It was horrible. I didn't want to leave my mother.
Of course you didn't. So much disruption, so much unsettledness, so much insecurity. Oh my goodness. I think we've had conversations. You've shared some of these stories with me in the past, but seeing them all kind of lined up and stacked up together, I'm like, holy cow, this girl, it's a miracle that you are where you are and you are who you are at this point.
I will say, Daddy died in February of 1963. Somewhere in the spring or summer of 1963, Ms. Winslet invited Al Worthington to come to our youth group. And I didn't know what that guy, I didn't understand most of anything he said, but he told how Christ changed his life. And I kept thinking, there was a hole in my heart. And I kept thinking, that's the answer. And that night, I stood up and prayed the prayer and really trusted Jesus, but didn't understand. I didn't understand anything of it. If there's anybody watching that went to school with me at Inslee, my senior year, my personality changed. You might not have understood why, but this is why. I shut up at school. I pulled in at school. So it was crazy. But I wasn't the same person my senior year. And your senior year is supposed to be your best year. I wasn't the same person as I was prior to then. So
no, your world had just completely collapsed.
I can still remember many of the people who came to my father's funeral. Kids, students who came. Very significant. Very significant.
Yeah. So this is a beautiful segue. I hope everyone will watch this. I'll encourage that. I see that it says that we're live, but I see nothing happening, so I don't even know what's going on the Facebook page, but it doesn't really matter.
No, you can post this.
Yeah, I'll post it, but hopefully, down the road, I'll be able to see if anybody's commenting or something. I thought I might be able to see if anybody had or whatever. Maybe I hadn't. I don't know. I have to turn my volume down now because I think it's playing live here on my computer. Anyway, I don't want to get distracted. But I want to say, because we got to wrap it up. I wasn't sure how this was going to unfold, but I'm actually really excited about how it's unfolded. And if you will indulge me a little bit.
Look, I never know what you're going to do. Just bring it on.
No, I'm really, really stirred in my heart for the younger you. And I know you're a tough lady, and you've moved past a lot of that stuff, and you've elbowed your way through the world, and you've found Jesus, and you've found grace, and you've taken some of your wall down and all that kind of stuff. But that girl still lives inside of you. Okay, the trauma coach in me is coming out.
I know. Bring it on. That's okay.
He's still back there. And what I've learned is we can actually go back and reparent and mend and talk to the younger versions of ourselves and offer comfort and healing. And even you sharing your story here today is a form of honoring her and giving her voice and letting somebody see. And we're seeing that pain. That's a beautiful, that's part of the healing process too, is just having others share in that moment with you.
Right.
And gosh, now when I think about what you've accomplished and what you've done with your life based on the absolute shifting, moving, sandy foundation that you were on, it's amazing that you found foothold, which I would say Christ has been your foothold, and been able to launch a decent life out of that. But what I want to say to the younger you is, I just want to hold her and say, you're going to be okay. I've got you. I've got you. And you can actually do that yourself. So I'm telling you this, but everybody can
Right.
do this too. For any wounds and pain that they have, scientifically, it's proven if you can put your hand over your heart, it helps with developing the new neural pathways and all. But just to say to the younger you, just put your hand over your heart and say, I see you. I see your pain. I see your suffering. I see your fear. And yes, it makes perfect sense that you want to keep people out. And I just want to be with you here in this moment right now. And it's pretty powerful to be able to do that.
Right.
So I want to encourage you to do that, because
Yes.
when we're older, I mean, you're 77.
I'm as old as dirt, baby.
Methuselah. I'll start calling
That's
you
him.
Methuselah. When you're older, you think that feels so silly.
No, it makes all the sense in the world to me. In
But
fact, just you saying it makes my heart, it touches my heart. Yeah.
yeah, yes. And that's the beauty, because like you said earlier, we were designed to live inside of community, and we bear these wounds and these pain on our own. But when we share them and somebody sees them, that's attunement. And somebody cares about them, we're offering attunement. And we need that so bad.
Right.
We need somebody to see us, to hear us, to hear our pain, right?
Yes.
and to offer comfort. And so I'm offering that to the younger you today, because I see younger Judy. I see the pain. I really feel so bad for her and what she had to go through. And my level of admiration has, climbed the ladder just in this time, because I know the rest of this, a lot of the rest of the story. But the way she started out, wow. That's a lot of trauma. So yeah, so you can do that anytime that in this coming week or whenever you want to. You can just put your hand on your heart and just say, I got you. I see you.
Right.
And yeah, that was really, really tough, because what happens a lot of times is we get hard on ourselves and say, well, just pull yourselves up by your bootstrap. You can't do anything.
That was my father's philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I even cried at his funeral, because Boyd's had to be tough. I had to be tough.
Oh, that's even worse, because this girl needs to be crying and shedding tears over the loss of her father.
Right. But I had to be a Boyd and be tough.
Oh no. And see, that's another agreement. So agreements can be broken. And I think you've broken the agreement about letting people in. But that I have to be tough. And the way that you break agreements, the way that I help people break agreements is by renouncing them. I just say, I renounce the agreement that I'm going to build this wall and that's going to keep me safe. I no longer choose to operate that way. Sometimes I'll say, the spirit of isolation, I send you away in Jesus' name. Go.
I actually use that word, isolation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Go. You have no more authority in my life. Cease your assault on my heart. Those are just some of the ways that we can do it. But I'm really touched by her story, and I'm glad that you feel some even sort of comfort just from
Yeah.
me
Yeah,
identifying it
absolutely.
and naming it today. So that's
Do you think you always call me a rescuer?
Mhm.
Do you think that's part of what made me?
Yeah, absolutely. I think our trauma wounds shape us and launch us in particular. I mean, it could have done the opposite, but a
Yeah,
lot of times the pain of our past, you took it and used it for good. You're like, I don't want others to go through that kind of
that's
pain
it. Yeah.
without someone noticing, without
See,
someone.
that's the reason I saw you. I mean, I knew I could sense. It's almost like I have a second sense. I can sense someone who's going through what I felt back then.
Yeah, your spirit felt well, I had done a lot of walling off too. But just the pain, the loss, even though my parents are still alive, there was so much pain and agony in my home life that, I couldn't talk about because no one would believe it anyway.
It's true.
Oh, you're just making that up. He's great. They're great. You got a great life. Okay. But yeah, so really beautiful. Thank you for sharing all of that. And that just makes the anticipation of listening to the rest of this book even heightened. Um, so I guess we'll stop the live, and we're going to
Right.
continue this next Sunday at 4. Hopefully, people will be there to join us, and we'll actually see. Oh, I'm seeing some comments. Hold on a minute. I'm seeing some comments. This is
Duh, we don't know what we do.
I don't know y'all, we don't know what we're doing, but we're doing it anyway. Okay. Debbie says, I have built walls my whole life. Oh, Debbie, God bless you. Rachel says, this is good stuff. Debbie says, I needed to hear this today. So glad I was able to hear this. Jesus, and you saved me, says Rachel Elledge.
Yeah.
Elledge.
I
I
went,
definitely would be. Oh, thank you so much for commenting and letting us know that this is working. I'm excited about that, Judy. Can you tell?
Rachel just lost a sister.
Oh,
I went to the funeral, unexpected, and her sister has had an aneurysm in her brain.
oh.
And for those who don't know, I have an aneurysm in the back of my brain that comes up my neck into the back of my brain, and I got something special. I have a bubble on top of my aneurysm, which concerns my neurosurgeon very much. But I'm just keeping on. I can't let that bother me. It does cross my mind, of course, but so I could really understand what Rachel was going through. Wow, man, brother.
Yeah, you've used your pain in a really good way. This is so what I needed. Thank you. You're so welcome. We're so happy. This aneurysm you have is really what's kind of the catalyst for us doing this. It's like Judy has so much she wants to get out and share to this world. Like, let's get it out there. Let's do it. We'll do it messy. It's okay. Like we were talking earlier, I said, I heard it from Zig Ziglar. Whatever's worth doing is worth doing poorly.
I love it.
You're never expecting to hear that. But I'm like, that has helped me so much to just go ahead and brave things. Like, if it, just do it, because you learn every time you do, and it's okay.
Absolutely.
So we're doing a good thing here, and I love it. I love how this ended up today.
You didn't think you didn't know all this.
I knew some of it, but I didn't understand the attachments of all the other family members. Right. I knew about your dad and all, and I knew about Miss Washburn, which will come later. But no, that's whoa. I'm sending a big hug to little Judy. See, you got to see little Kinsey, and I'm seeing little Judy now.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's
full circle moment.
Yeah. Wow.
I'm hugging the 16-year-old. You hugged the 16-year-old.
Yes, I did.
Yes, you did. So, God bless. Oh, Okay, well, great. I'm gonna stop the live. You stay here. I'm gonna stop
Yes.
the live.
Okay.
Not sure how to do that. Let's see.